Hi. So today I'm going to be reviewing this book sent in by Saji Sophia. Now, this book looks like it's a children's book and it's got a Kindle version and a paperback, which is great. The pricing might be good too. I would have to research and find out what competitors' pricing are. When I look at this, let's see, read sample. Let's look at the inside. Okay. The inside, this illustration looks good. It's not bad. It's a very, simple hand-drawn looking illustration, which is nice. It's nice that it's not AI, or at least not AI looking. And the text is okay. Maybe I'd play around with the font a bit. It says my mother's name is Soraya. She is as beautiful as a dewy spring flower. If this is going to be if this is for children or adults, we need to make sure that it has been revised. So number one rule is you cannot have a space before your period and you need to capitalize. So this is on the very first page and it's the only one that's showing really. In your look inside, it already shows grammatical mistakes. There's usually no space after a word before the comma also. So I would have to look over it. And especially if parents are reading this to their children, they don't want the kids to learn any wrong grammar. So it just makes it look very unprofessional. Have someone revise it and check it for grammatical errors and for editing. Now, the first thing we're going to look at always is the cover, because that's the first thing that people see, especially if it shows up in a search and you're comparing it to other books, because your book is, if it is showing up, going to be compared to all the books that are surrounding it. So I understand that this will be the inside illustration, which is great, and it's a great style. I would still try to make it stand out more. The illustration itself doesn't really tell me anything about what the story is about. And I would want a different illustration to be more compelling and dynamic. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is Mom and the Stairs. So there are certain fonts that are used for titles, and usually they are really bold, really thick, large. They stand out. The title is one of the things that really is important to grab your attention. And yes, this has high contrast, so that is a good thing. But I would say the typography needs to be adjusted. Also, usually for titles, the first letter of every word is capital, or you can capitalize everything. So that's important. And of course, the placement on the cover is very important. I wouldn't worry so much about written by Sophia or artwork by. If you want to put author, you could just put Sophia Saji without the words written by, and you don't have to put artwork by on the cover. You could do that on the back cover. You could do it inside, or I would suggest you do it at least inside, but not on the cover, because it takes up space that could be used for beautiful illustration. Because in the end, this is a children's book, and children's books are really just based on illustrations. It's all about the illustration, because that's what's attractive to kids. So even if a parent buys it and reads it to them, they want to look at the pictures. And the cover is very important. That's why the illustration, the style of the illustration is very important. Now, the title itself does not tell me what the book is about. So all I know is that it's for ages 4 to 12. And all Amazon knows is that this is a book from ages 4 to 12. But it doesn't say what it's about. So Amazon's not going to know how to rank it. Like, where does it show up when people are searching? It won't show up on any page at all for what people are searching, because it doesn't have any keywords in it to help with that. The keywords would mostly be in your title. That's very, very important. And of course, your description and the keywords in the back end. But if you're only depending on the keywords in the back end in your KDP account, that actually doesn't have hardly any weight at all. Mostly it's going to be number one in your title and then in your description. What we do know is that it's an illustrated book. If that is a search term that's searched, I would have to do my own research, and I'd have to look at what I use, Publisher Rocket, to see if that's a search term. And if it is, I am pretty sure that it is highly, highly competitive. It's a very broad term. Story, maybe, and children, that's a keyword. Attachment might be a keyword. Life lessons, that's great. So these are keywords I might, from just looking at your description, I would look at these keywords and I would see, are they highly searched and how competitive? If it's too competitive, I don't even like to use very, very competitive keywords. But if it's got a lot of searches, but not too extremely broad, I would have integrated them in the title, maybe even as a subtitle, so that Amazon understands what this book is about. Maybe it's a children's book that teaches lessons or something like that. I see here it says it's a heartwarming story of a devoted mother who selflessly cares for her children despite their growing attachment to electronic devices. A tragic accident strikes when she falls down the stairs, leaving a deep mark on the family's life. Through this, okay, it actually seems like a story that would not be for 4-year-olds, just from my common sense. It seems a little too traumatic. So I would have targeted this maybe for an older age, because I don't think that would be appropriate for really, really young children. And as a story, I understand what you're trying to do. I would kind of play around with it a bit so it's more child friendly, more kids friendly, kid related, and that might be in the story itself. So of course, if you end up rewriting it, that would be great, because then you could change the title to something a little bit more keyword friendly so we can understand what it is. Lessons from a family, lessons from the kids, or something. Just even integrating the word lessons in there would be better. So if you can integrate words that are important keywords, that will make a big difference. Now, your description definitely needs a lot of work. First of all, I would not italicize it, at least all of it. There's no need to do that. You have to create a title up here, which would be like, just a few words, beautifully illustrated book. Definitely not something like that. Something that is a compelling title, and have it in bold, maybe even all caps, and then, skip 2 spaces and then write a sentence or two and then skip 2 spaces. You have to make it more bullet points or something where people can easily skim through it quickly. But when there's a big block, just a paragraph, nobody's going to read it. But when it's easily readable, people will actually skim through it quickly. And that means you're capturing them on your listing page for a much longer period of time. Another thing that's important, and I've shared this with another book, is that this is a children's book, which means the inside pages are very important. People want to see what it looks like. If you're at a bookstore and you're trying to buy a children's book, you're going to pick it up and you're going to flip through it because you want to see the illustrations. You want to see how large the text is. Is it easy to read? Would it be easy to read for my child if I gave it to them? These are the things you think about when you're buying a children's book. So since they can't do that, they're going to want to see the inside, and that's a great opportunity. Over here, if you create your A+ content, that is a chance to show off the inside of your book. Maybe put a picture of a child reading the book, a lot of illustrations that are in the book, a page or two with the text and illustration. That will definitely show off your book. And if people like the illustration and they like the idea, the lesson that is being taught here, then they will likely buy the book. But that would be something after you've fixed the first things. The first thing you want to focus on is actually getting your book noticed by Amazon, so that it can actually be noticed by people. People are not going to know what your book is about, and it's not going to show up on their search until you put the keywords in your description. Highly advisable to have keywords in your title so that it will show up. People like to say, oh, I'll just run ads, but that's usually not a good strategy, because your book has to be optimized first before you could run ads. So even if you want to run ads to get traffic to a book that has no keywords and is not noticeable, number one, you will probably end up burning through cash, because other areas of your book have to be fixed before it could make sales. And number two, there is no guarantee that people are going to buy your book based on the keywords that you're choosing in your ads. So the most important thing is to optimize your book first. Optimize the title, optimize the description, optimize your cover, get a professional cover designer. Maybe your artist that illustrated this, they did the cover, which is great because they're doing great illustration, but that doesn't mean they are doing a good job with covers. Covers are different than doing illustrations inside the book. Covers have a different technique. You have to get people's attention with your cover. They have to be easily readable as a small thumbnail. So it's very important to make sure your cover is professional. And just looking at it from here, it's not professional at all. And I'm basing it based on the type of typography that you're using for the title, the way this is written down here, and the placement of the illustration on the cover and the placement of the text on the cover compared to illustration. So all of these things put together make it look very unprofessional. That's one of the first things you need to do. So I hope that helps, and I look forward to giving feedback to more books. So if you have a book and you want to know why it's not selling as well as you want it to, just send me a link. You could send me on Facebook in the group. Just send me a link to your Amazon book, and I will be more than happy to look at it and give you free feedback.